acknowledge our members on this call and encourage those of you who are not members to please join us today. For ways in which you can become a member and get involved, please visit our website at cleanenergy.org. Now I'd like to take a moment to review the basic functions of the WebEx control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. To ensure sound quality, all attendee lines will be muted throughout this presentation. Go ahead and find the three buttons along the bottom of your control panel. If you are having trouble hearing or seeing the slides, click the blue chat button and type in your problem so that I can help you troubleshoot. Our staff has saved time at the end of this presentation to answer questions about today's topic. To ask a question, click the question mark along the bottom of your screen and make sure all panelists is showing up in the drop-down menu. Then type your question into the questions text box. We will do our best to answer questions in the order that we receive them. And now to get us started, I want to introduce Susan Glickman, who has been with STATE since 2001. She now serves as our Florida Director in the Sunshine State. I'll hand things over to you, Susan.
Great, Kyle. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to be on the call. There's so many wonderful people who are involved in not only the Amendment 4, but have worked alongside myself and Southern Alliance for Clean Energy for many, many years on energy issues. And I think everyone on the call knows, you know, we're really at a crossroads in a time where, you know, energy's changing, our understanding about the need to diversify our energy mix and to move to clean energy and the costs of solar coming down. There's so many exciting things happening that we're seeing real change, not only here in the state of Florida, but in the U.S. and worldwide. So in particular, we have an opportunity in August to reduce taxes on solar, which will lower the cost of energy. It will help create local jobs and help us protect our natural environment. So there's a tremendous opportunity here, and I look forward to working with all of you. I'm easily reachable at susan@cleanenergy.org, and I know there's some other informational websites, so don't hesitate to reach out to all of us or to one of us. So Kyle, if we want to get started with the slides, that'd be terrific. So, you know, we just today you can find it online on a Florida Public Radio interview talking about the limited amount of rooftop solar systems that we have in Florida, which accounts for less than 0.1%. Florida, we have 9 million electric customers statewide, but less than 12,000 rooftop solar systems here in the state. And by contrast, a much less sunny state like New Jersey has over 43,000 solar rooftop systems with only about half the population and certainly not as strong of a solar resource as we have. We could be adding up to 60,000 solar installations a year. So Amendment 4 is going to have an opportunity to help with that. Next slide, please. So some of you all have been involved for quite some time on some of the efforts that have been going on in the state. So Floridians for Solar Choice was very active during the 2015 year, which started in January 2015, and that was a grassroots citizen-led petition effort to open up third-party sales. Florida's one of only 4 states in the country that expressly prohibits a third party from selling electricity. That's certainly been a huge sort of tool in the toolbox for the development of solar in other states. So that initiative is still active. It did not make it onto the ballot this November because of the effort by utilities in Florida that there was such success and such interest and excitement around the Solar Choice Amendment with the tremendous breadth of people involved that were from the conservative political right with the Tea Party and the Christian Coalition, and as well as the business community with the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, the Florida Retail Federation, which of course is kind of the heartbeat of our business community in the state of Florida, being that tourism is such a big driver in our state, and then with more traditional environmental groups. So because of the success of that, the big monopoly investor-owned utilities and others that have a sort of horse in the game in the fossil fuel industry backed an effort that was really designed to block Floridians for Solar Choice. It was designed in a way to confuse people. The justice in the Florida Supreme Court, former Chief Justice Barbara Perrianti, called it a wolf in sheep's clothing because it essentially uses words like solar choice, which promises a right that actually won't exist. It would codify or enshrine existing law, which is currently in Florida, you can lease or own solar, and that would codify that in the state constitution. They've spent well over $16 million because some of their efforts, including their Supreme Court cases, were funded through the utilities directly. So they've spent tens of millions of dollars to defeat the Floridians for Solar Choice initiative, and now that initiative is on the ballot in November. So we will be talking about that as well. So we're going to sort of lay out the yes on 4 in August and the no on 1 in November. So we will go to the next slide. So just as I said, we have this simple graphic, and we can get this to you in a material that's sort of easy to hand out that you can use. So it's very confusing for people, even people who are very steeped in this, because many people don't know about Amendment 4, because Amendment 4 was put on by the Florida legislature. And again, I want to appreciate so many people who are on this phone call who work so hard on Floridians for Solar Choice. So while it may feel disappointing that that is not on the initiative on the ballot in November due to all the really this dirty tricks and devious campaign run by the utilities, it was a large part of why the Amendment 4 is on the ballot, because lawmakers, and I'm sure this is around the country, but they're feeling pressure. You know, people see solar around the country, they see it, you know, other parts of the world, other states, and they see the costs are coming down, so people want to know why here. So I go up to Florida, to the Florida Capitol for the legislature, and that was a constant theme that I heard from lawmakers who said, you know, it's time we did something. So there is such, and again, it's because of people who are active, like most of you on the phone here, that this kind of pressure was brought on, and that is a big reason that the legislature put something on the ballot, and that opportunity to actually lower the cost of energy by reducing taxes on solar is a very big deal. So people should be really proud of what they did on the Floridians for Solar Choice, because it's part of the reason that we're here today. So next slide, please. Great. So as I mentioned, the legislature really needed to sort of do something. Amendment 4 is not controversial. People, you know, we should all want to lower the cost of energy. It passed the legislature unanimously, and there does not appear to be organized opposition. We still do have to come back to the Florida legislature for implementation of the bill, and that's going to require a lot of people staying very vigilant about that. So next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. So there's a picture of myself after a forum that Congresswoman Kathy Castor from the Tampa area did at the University of South Florida. So Amendment 4 is going to lower the cost of energy, and the taxes that we have make it more expensive. So currently, if you put a solar panels up on your home, you are already exempt for residential from the real property taxes. So if you have a $100,000 home, you put up $20,000 worth of panels, you're only going to pay your property taxes at $100,000. The Amendment 4 will expand that to include commercial, And in addition to that, it will abate the tangible personal property taxes on solar equipment that apply currently to both residential and commercial. So it's very important that people understand that this has the potential to help everyone and benefit everyone. And around the country, the lion's share of new solar systems are being financed. So like most people don't buy their home and their car with cash, they finance them over the time. And so that's really the underpinning of what's making solar grow in so many places. So Amendment 4, by getting rid of these taxes, will lower the cost of solar and lower the cost of energy, allow for more financing, and it will make solar affordable and accessible for everyone. So next slide, please. So here's the difficult list. Because, you know, we're here changing a law, changing policy here. It's a little bit wonky. Not everyone knows what ad valorem means, and it really just means at value. So it's the idea, and again, we've already talked about what it does, but this is the language which can be a little bit wonky. And because of the confusion about Floridians for Solar Choice, and the utility-funded, the utility-backed initiative, which is designed to confuse and mislead people about what it does, and then the fact that a lot of people don't know Amendment 4 is on the ballot, this is what they're going to see when they walk in to the ballot and to vote or vote by mail at home or when they vote early. And this is where we need your help, and we're going to move into sort of the what you can do about it. But we need for you to help us connect people that Amendment 4 is a good thing, that Amendment 4 is going to reduce taxes and lower the cost of energy, because people, when they walk in and are confused by ballot language, especially, again, the ballot language itself on its face can be a little daunting and confusing. And then the fact that they're sort of hearing things and have been reading things over these many months, we don't want people to be confused. So we need to put out a very clear sort of yes on Amendment 1. And, you know, I think if you read this language carefully, it is, you know, relatively clear about that it, you know, authorizes the legislature to prohibit these taxes. So, but using words like prohibit and ad valorem and assessing the value, again, it's a little bit technical, it's a little bit wonky. And again, if you all have any questions and you want to send those to the host on any more about the language, we'd be happy to take them during the Q&A. So the next slide, please. Great. So the other thing that is a little bit unusual, because typically amendments of this nature will go on the general election ballot, because the utilities have their rather devious and confusing Amendment 1, which will help them protect the status quo and continue to block solar. Amendment 1 on the November ballot, it's a little ironic that they told legislators that they didn't want Amendment 4 on the same ballot because it would confuse people, when that was actually the whole idea behind their effort. So Amendment 4 is on the August 30th primary ballot, and in some senses the good news about that is far fewer people vote in an August primary ballot. And remember now that about a third of the voters vote by mail. And they used to call them absentee ballots. Now we call it vote by mail. And vote by mail ballots will start going out at the end of July. So people tend to not send them right away. But nonetheless, we have 3 different audiences. So people that vote by mail, and then about a third of people vote early, and that's in the 10 days or so before the election. And then another third of people will vote on election day. You only get about 20% of people that vote in a primary. And in the general election, November, we could have 60 or 70%. And of course, as we all know, this is a very unusual election, a year where things are very high profile. So who knows? We need at least 60% to pass. And many years, it was a few years back that they raised that. It used to be 50%. And things were passing that the powers that be didn't like, and they raised that to 60%. It's not easy, but that's the challenge that we have in front of us. And I can tell you that there is enormous support out there for solar, And when you tell people that Amendment 4 will reduce taxes on solar and lower the cost of energy, create local jobs, and protect our natural environment, people are so supportive of it at super, super high levels. So it's just important to get that message out, and you all on the phone are the backbone of the folks that are going to help us make that happen. So what happens after we're successfully past this in the 2017 session, we will have to implement this proposal. I can tell you that there is some concerns, and somewhat understandably, with some communities, for instance, DeSoto County, which is a very rural county, and they don't have a big tax base. They have had a solar farm there that FPL put up in 2009. It would concern them greatly if that came off their tax rolls. So I do think that there are some concerns, but those can be addressed, and they will be addressed in the 2017 session. And we just need your help to make sure that we have the opportunity to get to that next step. So next slide, please. Great, and I think I'm not sure if this is my slide, I'm pivoting. No, I'm going to pivot to my colleague, Alyssa Jean Schaefer, who I'm sure some of you know. She's down in Fort Lauderdale, and she's going to talk a little bit about what you can do to help and how we can make this happen. So, Alyssa?
Thank you, Susan, and thank you all of you for joining us over your lunch break. We appreciate you taking a few minutes here to learn more about Amendment 4. And we'll just dive right in here to these last few slides to make sure that we have plenty of time for question and answer. But as Susan mentioned, because of the primary date, a big majority of the votes are actually cast before August 30th itself. So we wanted to walk through, well, how can you exactly vote for solar? And option number 1 there you'll see is registering to vote by mail, and you can do that at floridasolarvoter.com. And I'll talk a little bit more about that site in just a second. The second thing that we're encouraging folks to do is marking your calendar for early voting. Maybe you still want to go to the polls, you don't want to do it by mail, but you also want to avoid going on the actual election day because of traffic or waiting in line or whatever the case may be. So you can mark your calendar and go early, and you'll just have to find out at your local poll what the early voting options are, but they go out of their way to make sure that everybody has access to early voting. And as we've seen, a lot of people do take advantage of this, especially for the primary. So it's worth looking into if that's something you're interested in. And of course, we do have our core primary voters that just go straight to the poll on election day. And so that is going to be August 30th. It's right around the corner, which is, you know, kind of a helpful date to keep in mind that is the date. So even if you're voting by mail or voting early or actually going to the polls, just knowing that the election day is August 30th. So everything prior to that has to happen, you know, in the correct time frame. That's the date, is August 30th. And of course, we're encouraging all of our volunteers and supporters, partners, and allies, and a lot of you have done this wonderfully already, and we really thank you for all of your help in spreading the word. But we're encouraging you to share this information on social media and with your networks. A lot of people are unsure about, you know, how to vote in a primary, what the primary is about, and so just spreading the word that there's multiple ways for them to be involved and multiple ways for them to vote specifically is very helpful. Next slide. So here's the floridasolarvoter.com site that I mentioned, and this provides a really easy way for anybody to sign up to get a vote by mail ballot. Now, I've done this myself. As Susan mentioned, I'm actually in Broward, so I went through the process to kind of test it out, and it's very straightforward. All you have to do is fill out your information here, and you're going to want to use the information that corresponds with where you're registered to vote. So notice that if you did move recently, like myself, I just moved a couple days ago, I haven't switched my address over yet, so I have to make sure that when I'm filling this form out, that I'm using, you know, where I'm registered to vote. Of course, if you do want to change your address and, you know, with your voter registration, you're of course encouraged to do that, but just make sure that you're using the same address as whatever one you are registered to vote at. And what you'll do is you'll just put that information in, and after you click submit, I do want to flag that there's a couple additional steps. That doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get a ballot in the mail after you hit submit on this home page. You'll then be connected to your Supervisor of Elections website, where then you will verify that you're who you say you are and where you live and your correct address, and then you'll be able to select which ballots you want to receive. And now each Supervisor of Election, they're at liberty to provide these options in a little bit different way. So depending where you live, you might have the option to sign up for a cycle. So by clicking that, you might be able to get your vote by mail ballot for both the primaries and the general election. For some, it might be broken out individually, so you have the option to select, well, I want to get a vote by mail ballot in August, and then I want to get one in November, or I only want it in August, or whatever your preference is. So just make sure that you take an extra minute to look through those options, make sure that things are selected that you want to be sure to receive, and then you're going to want to make sure that you complete that process and click the final submit button through the Supervisor of Election website once you get to that point. Next slide. One of the biggest things that we're asking all of our volunteers to do is help amplify our efforts. As you all are well aware, you know, if there's 5 of us, we can do some good work. If there's 10 of us, we can do double. If there's 50 of us, obviously we can do a lot more. So as you all are out there spreading the word, one of the most important asks that you can ask people is to, hey, can you volunteer with me? Can you join me as a volunteer on this important solar issue? Now, it's very easy for people to sign up to volunteer. They can do this at yes4.org, and you'll see there's a Get Involved tab, and they can go directly down to the form, and they'll see some options where they can indicate how they prefer to be involved. And the easiest one, of course, is they just want updates. They don't necessarily want to volunteer, but they want to stay in the loop. This is also really important and really valuable. So make sure you encourage folks to do that, even if they're a little bit maybe on the fence about actually volunteering. Well, they can always just get updates and stay in the loop. So that's definitely still important. Also, phone banking, making phone calls to all those folks that do sign up, that want more information, that want to get phone calls about items on the ballot. We will have volunteers doing that. Canvassing, going door to door, and this actually can look a couple different ways. So we've had some volunteers that instead of going door to door in their community, they prefer to go to a busy public space, like in front of a library, or I've even had some volunteers go and stand on like the public sidewalk space in front of busy stores like Costco or Whole Foods, and getting pledges to vote yes on 4 that way. And then once we get closer to, or once we're at Election Day on August 30th, and potentially during some of the early voting too at some of the busier polls, we will be asking for volunteers to actually be at the polls, you know, with big signs saying vote yes on 4, and handing out materials, you know, in accordance with the rules. Of course, we understand we can't be in the polls, so I don't want anybody to be nervous about that. We won't be breaking any rules. We'll be doing it exactly how we're supposed to, but there will be a strong effort on the actual election day. And then, of course, as many of you are well aware with the efforts that many of you have done with Floridians for Solar Choice, the other option is always to table at local events. So if there's a festival or a farmer's market or even a music concert or something else that's going on during the summer that there's an opportunity for you to table at, we have brochures, we have bumper stickers, We have, like I mentioned, this pledge to vote yes, where you can just ask people to say that they will vote yes on Amendment 4 and use that opportunity to have a conversation with them. We have those materials available for you, and this is a great way to spread the word about Amendment 4. And lastly, if perhaps this is somebody that's out of state or they're just super busy and don't have time to do any actual volunteering, but they still want to support, they can always make a donation as well, and they can indicate that on the form. Next slide. So we've mentioned a lot of ways that people can get involved and action items that we all need to be taking to get this over the finish line by August 30th. But sometimes that can seem overwhelming. So we broke it down into time frame, like how much time do you have to dedicate to this on any given day, and that we found was very helpful in people realizing what they can do. So this is the first section. If you only have 1 minute, but you want to work on Amendment 4, here's some ideas. You can sign up to vote by mail at floridasolarvoter.com if you haven't done that already. Second idea is to spread the word on social media. You can see on the screen there, if you look for the phrase Yes4Solar, and that's the number 4, or if you go to facebook.com/Yes4Solar, you'll see our Facebook page here as it's displayed on the screen. And this is the fastest way to share content because it's already created for you. Literally all you do is like the page, and then you can comment on the post, you can share the post, you can send the post to your friend, and as all of you are well aware, it takes literally just a couple seconds. The other thing I would recommend that you do for our Facebook page, in order to make sure that you're seeing the latest updates, after you like the page, click the drop-down menu and then select either See First or Get Notifications for New Posts. A lot of times, especially with the updates that Facebook has done.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, sorry, did I cut out there?
Alyssa, you're good.
Okay. Anyway, so a lot of times with the Facebook feed, there's multiple posts going on, and a lot of stuff can get lost. So I would definitely recommend subscribing to See First or Get Notifications. Next slide.
Maybe there was a problem with Kyle cutting out. I'm not sure. Alyssa, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Let's see. All right. I just went to the next slide there. Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me still.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, we're going ahead. So sorry about that, folks. If you have 15 minutes, you have a few more minutes than just one, you can recruit 5 friends to vote by mail. So send 5 friends the floridasolarvoter.com website. Mention, hey, you guys can all go through this. It's a really easy process. Just take a couple minutes and explain it. You can also send an email to your local elected officials asking them to endorse. We've made this very simple for you. You can go to bit.ly/endorse4. You'll see the address there up on the screen. And we actually have emails that are pre-written that you can literally just copy and paste and use that language to email to your local electeds and ask them to endorse Amendment 4. If you're not sure who your local elected officials are, you can simply Google them, and I've tested this in a couple of different areas, like, hey, if I live at Dania Beach, who are my local officials, or who's my representative? And it's very easy to look that information up and to send them that email. If you have 15 minutes and you've maybe already done those first couple things, you can also contact your community or your faith group if you're part of a faith group or a different organization like that, and inquire about sharing this info with them. So a lot of times, you know, and one of the reasons that we're doing this webinar is so that all of you are comfortable sharing information and giving. You could even use this exact same presentation to your group. But the first step to giving a presentation is contacting organizers and making that request of, hey, can I give a presentation? It's like a 10, 15-minute presentation on something that is really important to me and it's really relevant to all of our members, and just making that request. And it's a simple request to make. Lastly, you can always join our volunteer call. We have calls every other Thursday. The next one is happening on July 14th. These calls are always at 6 p.m. and the phone number is always shared in our newsletter and is also shared on our Facebook page as well. Next slide. If you have 1 hour, you have a little bit more time to dedicate, we would suggest that you phone bank. So if you're interested in spreading the word, connecting with other folks that have volunteered or indicated that they want to get more information, I would request that you just let us know. I think there's a couple people that aren't on mute. Would we be able to maybe do a quick sound check and make sure that folks are muted, just because I'm getting a little bit of feedback there? Great, thank you. So if you're able to make those phone calls, that's really important and really valuable way to help spread the word. You can also write a letter to the editor. Letters to the editor are very short. The shorter it is, the more chance there is that they will publish it, actually. So we're talking 100, 150, under 200 words, and just explaining why you as a resident support Amendment 4 and why you're encouraging other folks to do the same. You can also table at local events, which I have already mentioned and a lot of you are already very good at. Canvassing in your neighborhood, which I already mentioned as well. And literally sometimes, I think when people hear the word canvassing, they think, oh, I have to like spend the whole day doing that, or I need the whole afternoon and it's hot outside and I don't know. It's really easy to come up with a lot of excuses. But literally you can just spend 1 hour doing this. We had a group that did it the other weekend, and I think it was a little bit less than an hour. They literally got over 70 pledges to vote yes in just that short time frame. So don't let that be an intimidation factor. You can also attend a local training. We actually have one in Tampa at 6 p.m. tonight. So make sure if you're in the Tampa area, we can get you more info about that, or you can find the info on our Facebook page. And lastly, give a presentation in your community. As I mentioned, this is one of the main reasons that we're doing this webinar, is to really empower all of you to be able to give this presentation and amplify our efforts. If all of you are able to take this information and give, even if it's just 1 or 2 presentations to your groups, just imagine the multiplying effect that that will have as far as spreading this information and getting it into the hands of a lot more people than just us giving this presentation to whoever we can, because there's only so many hours in the day. So I would encourage all of you to take this information and really, do these presentations. And if you want to have an event, like a training event in your area, you are all more than capable, and we're here to support those efforts. And by giving you, this PowerPoint, and we'll talk more about other ways that we're able to support as well. You all do a fantastic job. I've seen a lot of volunteers give presentations, and you all do a really great job. So keep that in mind as a really effective thing that you can do. Next slide. And here's some more of those resources that I just mentioned. So we have a lot, and this is the whole point of what we're trying to do here, is to give you everything that you need to effectively campaign for Amendment 4. Some of these are available on Yes4.org, and some of these are available if you sign up to volunteer. We can email you them directly. You can always email Tara, she's our volunteer coordinator, And we'll be following up so that you have everybody's correct email addresses and everything at the end of this. But we have fact sheets, we have talking points for letters to the editor, palm cards, brochures, pledge cards, and the pledge cards are where you're asking people to sign to vote yes on Amendment 4. We have signs that folks can put, like if they want to have a sign on a table or on the back of a clipboard. We have this PowerPoint that we're using right now. As I mentioned, we want all of you to hopefully use this and give your own presentations. We also have scripts, so if you sign up to Phone Bank, don't think that, oh, no, I don't know what to say or I'm just going to be out on my own. No, we actually give you word for word a suggested script so that you have everything that you need to feel comfortable in that process. We also have a video that walks through the whole phone banking process, again, just to get you as comfortable as possible with doing that. And brand new this week, we have t-shirts and stickers, bumper stickers, and these are designed so as you're out there in the field, if you have a couple presentations coming up, or if you're organizing an event or something like that where you're going to be in front of a bunch of people, let us know so that we can send you these materials and then take pictures of the event and we'll put them up on social media and in our newsletters. But you have to let us know. That's the key. And that's where the last bullet point comes in, is campaign staff. We are here to support all of your efforts. We're here to amplify each other and multiply each other's efforts. So just let us know what you have coming up, what you can do, if you have questions, if you have specific needs, and we will do whatever we can to support those efforts. Next slide. And lastly, we can do this. So I love this slide because it shows just a bunch of, so not even a large percentage. This is just a handful of a few people that are very enthusiastic about getting a victory, getting more solar in the state of Florida, and just all working together towards towards really opening up the solar market and creating more opportunities for affordable solar and solar energy throughout the whole state. And I know many of you have been working on this for a long time. Some of you since Floridians for Solar Choice started over a year ago, and many of you have been working on these issues for years longer than that. So it's, this is a really encouraging and inspiring group to be a part of. And again, thank you to a lot of you that have already done so much on this issue over the years and over the last few months. So as I mentioned, we're less than 2 months away from August 30th, which can seem kind of intimidating, but I really believe that all of us working together, we can absolutely do this. Next slide. Or that's the last slide.
Yeah,
I believe that's the last slide, and now we're going to have time for question and answers.
All right. Well, thanks, Susan and Alyssa, for that great presentation on the importance of getting the word out on Amendment 4. And throughout the webinar, we've received some great questions. So I wanted to take this opportunity to let our staff answer as many as we can get to here. So we'll jump right in. And so our first question is from Allie, and she asked, do I have to be registered to a party to vote on the amendment? So Alyssa, do you want to tackle this one?
Sure. We actually get this question a lot. Because Amendment 4 is a nonpartisan issue, anybody who is a registered voter in Florida can vote. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, no party affiliation, you can vote on Amendment 4, absolutely.
Let me just add to that for a minute, because no party affiliation, if you're not in one of the two major parties, for instance, you can't vote in the U.S. Senate primary because you have to be a Democrat or Republican to vote in a Democratic primary or Republican primary. But if you're a no party affiliation registered person and you are registered to vote by mail, I want to emphasize as much as I can that Florida Solar Voter tool that Alyssa went through, because the best thing you can do is to sort of bank a vote ahead of time, and you'll actually be doing people a favor because I know myself, if you can avoid spending an hour or more, and who knows what it'll be like in the general, by not standing in line, and we just have no idea the kind of time that's going to take. So the best thing for no party affiliation people, when they say that, is say make sure you get registered to vote by mail, because they can vote, but they're probably unlikely to get in their car, go to the polls, and do that. But if it comes in their mailbox, they're more than likely to do that. So I would just emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. But if for some reason one of those people did want to actually go to the polls, they would still be allowed to vote.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Just a low likelihood they would do that just for this amendment, unfortunately.
Great. So we'll get to the next question here. And this question is from Sarah. And she asked, what happens if both solar amendments pass? So Susan, do you want to tackle this one?
Sure. It is possible. So let me talk about Amendment 1, which is the, utility-funded and designed initiative that's sort of deviously trying to confuse people. So it would codify current law into the state constitution, which is you can own or lease solar panels. The most concerning thing about Amendment 1 language is some very vague language about what they call the sort of cross-subsidization, or that of non-solar customers somehow paying for the cost of the grid that subsidize solar, people who have solar on their roof. That's simply unsupported and unfounded, especially at the incredibly low levels of solar that we have. The Public Service Commission just released a press release day before yesterday bragging about the increase in solar, but solar rooftop, we have less than 0.1% of our needs met with solar. So if that passes, it really, on the face of it, doesn't do anything in a sort of technical way. So it would not discount or do anything to Amendment 4 when it passes. It would still reduce these taxes. It would expand to commercial, the abatement on the real property taxes, and it would abate for 20 years the tangible tax. So they really can coexist if they both were to pass. So, what arguments utilities might use at the Public Service Commission or with legislators to somehow try to construct, as I said, an unfounded argument that somehow solar customers are, being subsidized by non-solar customers. That's more of a intellectual, philosophical, political, debate that's being had around the country. It's going to be had in Florida, irrespective of what happens with Amendment 1. But anyway, so the answer is they would coexist.
Thanks, Susan. And we will keep it moving here. So the next question came from Kara, and she asked, how can I find out if there's an event coming up in my area? So Alyssa, can you tackle this one?
Sure. So to find out if there's an event happening in your area, I would say, first of all, make sure that you're on our email list. If you're not sure, or if you haven't gotten any emails from us, go ahead and go over to Yes4.org and sign up to make sure that you're getting our newsletters, and we always highlight upcoming events. You can also go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Yes4Solar, and check out the events tab. And also, I would recommend subscribing to that page so you get notifications anytime we post a new event. You can always email us too. And if there isn't an event in your area, but you would like to help plan one, let us know.
And Kyle, if anyone wants to know about the event tonight in Tampa, it starts at 6 p.m. and it's at the Seminole Heights Branch Library, and that's at 4711 North Central Avenue. So it's right near sort of 275 north of downtown at the Seminole Heights Branch Library at 6 o'clock.
Great, thanks, Susan. That was actually going to be one of our next questions, so you jumped the gun there. There you go. Our next one that we have was from Allie, and she asked, how can I get my elected officials involved? So Susan, I think this is up your alley here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, all of us, you know, have a network, and elected officials in particular have a network. I know I get emails from a number of legislators that go out, and all the Florida legislators voted for this. So they, generally speaking, should be supportive of it. But we need to make sure that they want to sort of formally endorse. So if you have any relationship with your state legislator, city council people, your mayor, your county commissioners, ask them to endorse Amendment 4. And all we need, we do have an amendment, we have an endorsement form, but if they just send an email that said, you know, yes, please include my name on a list, or I endorse, or I'm supportive, and then we can talk, let us know that, and then we can talk about other things that they can do. But what we would love them to do is to reach out to their networks and just let people know what Amendment 4 does, because as soon as they know it reduces taxes on solar and lowers the cost of energy, you know, there's a very, very high level of support.
Great, and these, by the way, are great questions, everyone, so keep them coming. Our next question is from Adam, and he asks, is postage included when we request to vote by mail? So, Alyssa?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. When you get your ballot and you send it back in the mail, you do have to put a stamp on it and just send it like you would send any other piece of mail. I believe you also need to sign the back of the envelope once you seal it as an extra measure as well. And all those instructions will be clearly laid out when you get your vote by mail ballot.
Yeah, you do sign the back. This is Susan. I voted by mail for many years, and you do, yes, have to put postage on it. So I just want to make sure that was clear.
Great. We will keep them rolling.
Kyle,
here.
people can also drop them off, so people know that. Not everybody wants to go down to their supervisors of elections office, but you can drop them off, and people do a lot of that.
Great, that's good to know if they're in the area there. So, and our next question is from Jen, and she asked, I am in a homeowners association that wants to be involved. How can we best get the word out? Susan, do you want to tackle this one?
Certainly. So, you know, shoot us a note and let us know. It depends on what the opportunities. If there's a homeowners association meeting and you want to just go to it and let them know ahead of time, you know, I'd like, you know, 10 minutes or 5 minutes just to stand up and briefly explain what Amendment 4 does. If they will allow you to do a short presentation, you can take the slides. You know, if it's, I've certainly myself spoken at homeowners associations if it's a big group, but we're trying to, you know, sort of cover the landscape as much as possible. So if it's something that you can cover, you know, please do that. So, you know, you can print some fact sheets off the website. All of the materials are easily available. Alyssa, I think you've done a good job of explaining, but if you want to just sort of repeat how people access these materials, we take one of those 8.5 by 11 pages and tape it, glue it to the back of a clipboard, you know, and you sort of just got something in front of you like you saw in that picture where I was standing there in that blue dress. Just something to identify with. We've got buttons, T-shirts, you know, we just, you know, we'll be happy to get those materials. So Kara is the volunteer coordinator. It's Kara with a K, K-A-R-A, at cleanenergy.org. We're all very easy to find. I'm Susan at cleanenergy.org. So we'll give you whatever help you need. But the bottom line is if you've got a homeowners association meeting, you can go to that meeting and you can stand up and explain to people how they can reduce taxes on solar, lower the cost of energy, and make solar more readily available in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, and I would just add that your association can endorse Amendment 4 as well. If that's something that as a group they want to endorse and they support lowering the cost of energy, as a community, you can absolutely present that as an option as well.
Great question. And so the next one we have is from Anthony, and he asks, should we presently try to collect 2018 solar choice petitions? So Alyssa, do you want to give some insight here?
Sure. So the Floridians for Solar Choice effort is still active. What I would say there, though, is that since the timeline, since now it would be, you know, going for the 2018 election, obviously the August election is much sooner. We have less than 2 months. So while, yes, we are still encouraging folks to collect Solar Choice petitions, the higher priority, at least for the next couple months here, is spreading the word about Amendment 4. So my suggestion anytime somebody asks me this is, if there's an opportunity that you would normally think of, oh, well, this is a great petitioning opportunity, just think, okay, well, I want to instead use this opportunity to make sure that I'm telling people about Amendment 4 and telling them that they can vote to, or sign up to vote by mail on floridasolarvoter.com, asking them to sign a pledge to vote yes. And then depending on the context of that conversation, you know, if you have more time, then yeah, definitely let them know about Floridians for Solar Choice and get that petition. But if this is, you know, a high volume or a busy type situation where you're just talking to as many people as quickly as possible, you have to prioritize. So since Amendment 4 is just around the corner, that is the priority for the next couple months here.
Yep, great question, Anthony. So our next question is from Jessica, and she's asked, I've already signed up to receive updates through the Yes4 website, but want to sign up for the other actions, phone banking, canvassing, table at local event, etc. Do I simply submit another Get Involved form, or is there someone I should contact? So Alyssa or Susan, whoever wants to tackle this one.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for wanting to kind of step up your level of involvement. We really appreciate that. There's no need to refill out the form. You can just email Kara at cleanenergy.org. So that's Kara at cleanenergy.org, and let her know what you would like to do, how you would like to help. You can always message us on our Facebook page as well if that's easier for folks.
Kyle, I just wanted to say one thing about Floridians for Solar Choice, because so many people on the phone were so deeply involved in that. We still have the potential to be on the 2018 ballot because we can gather signatures throughout the rest of the year to do that. And I think that, you know, it's still a possibility to do that because the signatures are good for 2 years. So anyway, I agree with everything Alyssa said. I think the bigger priority in just the next 60 days or so is August 30th and Amendment 4. But I just want people to understand that those signatures are good for 2 years. So anyway, just wanted to reinforce that.
Great, yeah, that's great information. Let's keep it rolling here. We've got a few more minutes. So this question is from Joyce, and she asked, can you elaborate on how the amendment would increase the availability of leasing options? So Susan, do you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, as I said earlier, most people don't buy their home or their car with cash. So there are some people who have the wherewithal to write a check for $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever the system costs. So, you know, currently under Florida law, you can lease solar equipment from someone, but if you're assessed a tangible tax on that, and let's just say your millage rate is 2% on that, you could you know, add $600 to a system. So it is not an insignificant amount of money. So if that tax is abated, the leases are going to be able to be lower, and it's going to you know, be you know, there'll be a better opportunity for people, particularly people of all sort of income levels. And we've seen around the country that actually a majority of the new systems are developed and financed through a leasing model. So they will not be able to, and this is also going to be important, you know, with businesses, because when you get the bigger solar systems, you're talking about, you know, obviously just a bigger price tag. So the big Anheuser-Busch distributor in my county put up solar 1.5 megawatts, and it's a 6.2-year payback. So this is someone who could afford to do it themselves and write the check. But you can see if you can pay for a solar system roughly 6 years, you know, there's a real opportunity. So this is going to open it up to a bigger audience. But so it's going to lower the cost of the lease is the bottom line. And if you have the tax, it makes it more expensive.
Great, and that's a great question, Joyce. So we have time for one more here, and this question is from Sarah. She asked, I'm going out of town a lot in August, but I want to vote yes for solar. How can I make sure my vote counts? So Alyssa, do you want to wrap this one up for us?
Sure, and this is a great question to end on. If you're going to be out of town in Florida, or your friends are going to be out of town when the primary rolls around, vote by mail. I cannot emphasize that enough. Go to floridasolarvoter.com, take that 1 minute, fill it out, go all the way through the whole form, make sure that you select the August primary that you want to get that ballot, and then once that comes, fill it out, put it back in the mail, and your vote will be counted, even if you're not physically in Florida on August 30th. And on that note, I actually was corrected in something that I said previously. When you return your vote by mail ballot, you actually don't need to put a stamp on it. So make sure you read those directions carefully, because I was actually confused on that myself. So just follow the instructions when you get that by mail. But that voting by mail is the way that you can make your vote count for Amendment 4 in August.
And when you sign up to vote by mail, they will give you an option of whether or not you hit, like, to vote for this cycle. And then once you've signed up, you're signed up for August and you're signed up for November, or you can just pick one election or the other. So if you really do like to go and stand in line on a general election and you enjoy voting, which some people do, then you can just vote for, you can just sign up for the August primary when you're out of town, if that's your situation. I personally would recommend to people to just put, you know, all the general elections.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank you, Alyssa and Susan, for this presentation today, and thanks again for everyone joining us today and for your thoughtful questions. We had one last question from David, but that's actually going to tie into what I'm saying here. Today's presentation has been recorded and will be available on the Yes on 4 in August YouTube channel, and we will also send you a link to this recording once it has been processed with Alyssa's email attached if you have any remaining questions today. So we'll make sure you get this presentation emailed to you shortly. We hope you enjoyed this presentation and have a great rest of the week.